It was a peaceful Saturday morning, the type where the world is gentle and the coffee is like a hug. I was enjoying my second cup on my porch, the stillness of my 30-acre farm enveloping me like a blanket, when 3 shots broke the tranquility. Coffee splashed on my jeans as I jumped up heart racing, hoping poachers or a rogue coyote in my cornfield. I pulled on my boots and ran toward the sound, only to run into a situation so ridiculous it could have been written by a fever dream. A band of camo-attired hunters gathered around a bullet-hole-riddled luxury SUV, smoke drifting from its hood. Patricia Wells, the iron-fisted president of the Meadowview HOA, was yelling at them in designer boots. Her voice a blend of anger and disbelief. The hunters rubbing their heads looked like they'd stumbled into the wrong film. One grumbled the SUV's chrome grille resembled antlers in the mist. That was when it hit. Methylene shot. Patricia's own Cadillac Escalade parked smack in the center of my private field. And somehow she'd managed to persuade them this land was hers. The melee was almost hilarious. Patricia was screaming about trespassing, while the hunters shouted back that she'd invited them, waving a crumpled flyer that screamed Amateur Hour, HOA logo, Hunters Welcome in bold Comic Sans, and Patricia's signature scrolled in purple ink. I glared at it then, at her, as she caught sight of me and stood there. Oh, fantastic, he's here. She spat like I was the one who'd marred her morning. I ordered everyone to stand back from the vehicle, partly for safety, partly to look at the carnage. The SUV had the look of a vehicle that had auditioned for a gangster movie. Hood pock-marked with buckshot side mirror swinging windshield, cracked into a mosaic, Patricia, I said, forcing calm. What's happening? She pointed at me like I was a criminal. This feels community trust and I have every right to use it. News to me since I paid the land straight out 5 years ago, deed framed on my office. I told her she'd made an expensive mistake. She didn't blink. The HOA board decided to rent it out for community enrichment. She snapped. I looked at the hunters, one holding a beer, another in flip-flop sand, deadpanned. Real enriching. One nodded, believing I was serious. I informed them they were trespassing and had to leave. Patricia crossed her arms. I'm not moving until somebody pays for my car. I reminded her it had been shot on my land by her guests. She retorted, if your field didn't appear so deserted, they wouldn't have confused my Escalade with a deer. My patience fright. I asked a hunter for the flyer's source. He handed it over, and on the back in glitter pen was a note. Valid for all HOA-approved activities. Queen Patricia. I snapped a photo. This will be great in court, I said. She lunged for it, but I dodged. Then I dropped the hammer. I'd been the state's wildlife commissioner. I knew every hunting law, property statute, and conservation rule. Her stunt was illegal, minefield, unauthorized hunting, endangering others, fraudulent documents, HOA, abuse, breaking and entering. I recited the charges, and by the fourth her jaw was slack, her entitlement unwinding. The hunters, smelling trouble, took a step back. One inquired if they are taken to jail. Not today, I replied, but your guns are taken, and your names are going to the rangers. I wasn't lying. Game wardens were on their way. Patricia attempted to bribe me with HOA monies to remain silent. I instructed her to leave and get a lawyer next time. She got into her destroyed SUV, hired a hunter to drive, and burned rubber peeling out, bumper dragging like a sad trophy. As the dust cleared, my neighbor Sam called to see if I'd heard Patricia tried to rent his orchard too. This wasn't an isolated incident. She was a serial schemer. By lunchtime, a hiker's video of the disaster made the community Facebook group, gaining hundreds of comments, mostly shock and memes. Patricia, instead of retreating, called an emergency HOA meeting on the lawn of our community right across my driveway. She brought out a podium covered in imitation silk, holding a clipboard like it was her scepter. I arrived curious and prepared to shoot down her spin. The crowd, some in lawn chairs, others rubbernecking, witnessed as she insisted the hunting was an educational workshop dashed by misinformation. I stood with my hand up. She ignored me, so I approached the front and asked, "Who sanctioned hunting on my own property?" She stuttered on talk of recreational access that I discussed under the glitter pen pamphlet. The crowd gasped. One of our board members, Ellen, had conceded never having seen it, and uncovered that Patricia charged the HOA for insurance on an event without us ever having discussed. Approving this, I spoke out, bodged firearm property damage, hazard, possible injuries. What if there had been a kid in the area? I asked. The crowd shifted, venting complaints, rescinded events, illegal paintwork, sparkly gate signs. Patricia's sneer stumbled. She attempted to adjourn the meeting, snapping her clipboard in two and tripping over a sprinkler wetting her shoes. The crowd hardly suppressed guffaws. Residents pored over HOA records revealing unauthorized charges, bogus policies, and a private event waiver template bearing Patricia's signature. The hunters were charged with probation offenses, their guns confiscated, one claiming Patricia offered legal protection. Her apology barbecue was a bust. Only a pizza delivery guy came out with ribs. The HOA called for a no-confidence vote, requiring 1/3 of residents' signatures. We received twice that in days. Patricia struck back with a buzzing drone over my field, then slipped a red-inked cease and desist into my mailbox, accusing me of trespassing on HOA property. I called a county surveyor friend, and we GPS'd my boundaries. Orange stakes blazing, Patricia stormed over, waving HOA documents of no legal standing. I cautioned her against removing stakes. It's a crime. 2 disappeared that night. I complained to photos, drone video, and her fake notice. My attorney sent her an actual cease and desist. She slammed the door on the delivery. Ellen held a home meeting where I provided maps, emails, and drone proof. Neighbors reported witnessing Patricia snatching photos of unauthorized decks, pocketing bogus fines. The air was electric with outrage. Ellen suggested the no-confidence vote, and signatures flooded in. Patricia bullied hired contractors to excavate trenches on my property under the guise of moving HOA irrigation. I shut them down, called the sheriff, and a deputy demanded permits. Patricia had none. The contractors ran away, and she received a warning. That evening, a survey stake was substituted with a plastic flamingo marked HOA rules in gold marker. It was unbolted, but it mobilized us. The no-confidence vote filled the clubhouse. Patricia sat defiantly holding a binder full of evidence. Ellen recited her crimes, forged flyers, illegal hunting, fund misuse, boundary tampering, drone spying. Patricia's defense was a delusional tirade, accusing me of being a government spy and claiming hacked emails and psychological warfare via memes. The crowd laughed. Votes were cast in a clear box, 103 for removal, 12 against 2. Blank, Patricia was ousted, barred from leadership forever. She screamed about rigged ballots and constitutional violations, toppling a table as she stormed out. The room turned to rebuilding new leaders' transparent rules. Patricia called a news crew, claiming I was building an airstrip on HOA land. I showed reporters my fieldgrass stakes, a deer feeder, and turned over legal papers and her forged flyer. The segment ran as Suburban, standoff wild accusations, and wilder shots with Patricia tirading about suburban warfare. Memes erupted. HOA Napoleon and I survived Patricia's hunt. A county commissioner on hand called it out as forged. Officers took her mid-spec in for fraud and document forgery. The audience taped and the clip went viral, dubbed Empress of Entitlement. Patricia's house stood empty, later becoming a community center teaching property rights. The HOA elected Ellen's board, adopted transparency, and named my field a landmark, with a sign the field that resisted. No hunting, no fraud, no autos. Months after that, Patricia attempted sneaking in a trench coat and sunglasses on a wildlife tour. A child yelled at her and sprinklers soaked her getaway, her scream echoing as she tumbled into a bush. I made another report of trespassing and she was warned. One step further and she's arrested. She sent slick suburban renewal pamphlets with promises of mailbox curfews and purity patrols. The sheriff closed it down. Her reign was at an end, but I left my trail cams up, and lawyer at the ready. The field bloomed, the community prospered, and my coffee remained in the